The accusation came so suddenly it almost felt rehearsed. His chair screeched back, his voice slicing through the clinking of cutlery. "You stole my wallet and my gold watch, you filthy thief!" The table froze. I looked up from my plate, the steam from the roast blurring my vision for half a second. He was standing, face flushed, veins visible, eyes gleaming with self-righteous fury. My wife's brother, Daniel, the family's golden boy. Everyone's gaze turned toward me. I didn't speak, didn't need to. The accusation hung in the air like a stench, ugly, heavy, calculated. Then, almost theatrically, he bent down, reached into the small leather bag beside my chair, and pulled out his gold watch and wallet. "See," he barked, waving them like trophies. "I knew it was you!" A gasp rippled across the table. My wife's hand flew to her mouth. Her father's jaw clenched. And me? I laughed, soft at first, then louder, until the laughter filled the silence like static before a storm. I'd known something was coming. Daniel had never liked me, not since the day his sister, my wife, chose me over the family's preferred banker fiancé. He hid it well, for years, with smiles that never reached his eyes, with subtle jabs disguised as jokes. But lately, the mask had started to slip. At last month's gathering, I caught him whispering something to my wife, and she looked away too quickly. The week after, I noticed she'd been distant, quiet, hesitant when I reached for her hand. Then came the small things. Her phone lighting up at odd hours, a sudden change in her passwords, a deleted message thread I happened to glimpse before she pulled the phone from my hand and said, "It's nothing." Nothing always means something, and that something had Daniel's fingerprints all over it. So I watched, listened, collected fragments. One night when she thought I was asleep, I heard her whisper into the phone, "You promised you'd handle it. I can't let him find out." Her voice trembled, not with fear, guilt. That was the night I stopped loving her. The next few weeks were quiet, too quiet, like the silence of a house holding its breath before collapse. I started noticing Daniel's presence more than usual, random visits, sudden interest in family dinners, and that smug smile whenever I entered the room. He was circling me, testing the ground before he struck. So I began preparing too. I installed a small camera in my study, one in the hallway, one near the cabinet where my bag usually sat. Then I waited. And one evening, 2 days before the family dinner, the footage came alive. Daniel, entering the house with my wife, both laughing softly. He was holding a small velvet pouch. She was whispering, her hand trembling as she gestured toward my bag. He opened it, placed something inside, then looked at her. "Tomorrow night," he said, "we'll end this. For good." She nodded, tears in her eyes. Not tears of remorse, of fear. She was afraid of losing him. When they left, I sat in that dark room for a long time, listening to the faint hum of the camera. I didn't rage, didn't scream, didn't break anything. Instead, I reached for the small folder in my drawer. Bank statements, email records, photos, texts, everything that tied Daniel to the quiet fraud that had been bleeding his father's company for months. I printed copies, placed them neatly in an envelope, and waited for dinner. The night was almost too perfect. The house smelled of rosemary and tension. Daniel was already drinking when I arrived. My wife's eyes flickered toward me, searching, uncertain. She looked exhausted, beautifully dressed, but empty behind the smile. We made small talk, the kind families make before they implode. Then, halfway through dinner, it happened. The accusation. Theaters. The perfect setup. His voice rose, his hand went into my bag, and the evidence appeared. The crowd gasped. My wife's eyes went wide, pretending surprise, and I laughed. Because I had been waiting for this moment with surgical precision. When my laughter finally stopped, I leaned back, met his gaze, and said quietly, "Are you sure you want to finish that sentence, Daniel?" He blinked. What the hell does that mean? I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the envelope, and placed it beside my plate. "Because the only thing I stole," I said softly, "was your secret." He froze. His father frowned. What secret? "Maybe let him explain," I replied, sliding the envelope across the table. Hands trembled as the old man opened it. Paper spilled out. Transaction records, false invoices, account transfers. Every piece leading straight to Daniel. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "That's fake." "Security footage says otherwise," I interrupted. Then turned to my wife. "And so does the camera in our hallway." Her fork clattered to the floor. I stood, calm, cold. "Next time," I said, "if you're going to frame me, make sure you're not being recorded doing it." Silence. Heavy. Total.